Welcome to Veranda IAS. In today's current affairs session, in the subject Geography and Disaster Management, we will be dealing with the topic Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary. And the learning objective of today is to analyze Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary and to discuss the UPK Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in news, and to examine a wildlife sanctuary. So moving forward, let's talk about this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary. So the sanctuary is located in Maharashtra, 40 kilometers north of Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve. So Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, which is an important tiger reserve which is present in India, which is present in Maharashtra. So this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary is located 40 kilometers north of this Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, and it is 50 kilometers southwest of Nagzira Wildlife Sanctuary and 60 kilometers north of Nagpur. So to reach this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary, it is better to move from Nagpur, so which is 60 kilometers. So the nearby town, the nearby city is Nagpur, which is present near this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary. So as we see in this Tadoba Andhari Tiger Reserve, it is connected to this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary with Ganga River. So Ganga River actually connects this Tadoba Andheri National Park with this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary. So then it is 80 kilometers northwest of find yourself at the Pinch Tiger Reserve, which is also an important tiger reserve. So Pinch Tiger Reserve is present 80 kilometers northwest of this Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary. Further, Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary. Why it is in news? So what are these resident species which is present in this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary? Let's see. So there will be breeding tigers, gorheads, wild dogs, and a variety of unique species like flying squirrels, which will be seen in this wildlife sanctuary, along with pangolins and honey badgers. So all these are found in this sanctuary. So the sanctuary actually connects an important tiger reserve such as Tadoba, as we seen before, Pinch, Bor, and Nagzira. So it is very important to have a wildlife sanctuary nearby to another wildlife sanctuary, because if wildlife sanctuaries are present in a greater distance, it is impossible for the animals to move. There may be highways in between this wildlife sanctuary, so that when this animal, when they cross from one wildlife sanctuary to another, they will actually get into struck by these vehicles which is moving in the national highways. If there is a railway link which is present in between, they will be heated by these trains. So hence it is usually good to have a wildlife sanctuary connected. So hence this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary is nearby, so it is easy for the animals. So it is an easy corridor for animals to passage from one wildlife sanctuary to another wildlife sanctuary. So moving on, let's see why this sanctuary is in news. So actually in Jan 2021 at Nagpur, Maharashtra, a tigress and her two cubs was found dead in this Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary. So that is why it is in news. So in this case, what had happened is that these tigress and her two cubs was actually poisoned. So why this incident was taking place? Because this tiger actually hunted cattle which is in the adjoining village which is present near this UPK Wildlife Sanctuary, and to take revenge of these tigers, the farmers or the cattle owners actually poisoned cattle, and they left the poisoned carcass in the wild, which was eaten by the tigress and her two cubs. So that is why this incident has became an sensational news. So we see in the recent years the tigers numbers has been increasing in India. So we have successfully increased the number of tigers, but there is another concern in this process, because at one stage the tigers amount was increasing, the tigers population was increasing. At the same time, the habitat of tigers is decreasing. So usually the tigers, what they will do is that they will actually demarcate their territories. One tiger will not leave its territory to another tiger. So in this wildlife sanctuary itself, a tiger will demarcate its territory. So because of this, because of the increasing number of tigers, this demarcation actually is not enough for tigers. So usually what happens is that they invade from one territory to another territory. So fights may happen between these tigers. So even in that fight too, many tigers has been killed. So also, if the territory is not enough, they will actually move to the adjoining villages in search of cattle. So where we find the man-animal conflict, which is an important problem which is happening, man-animal conflict. So that's what had happened in this case. So moving on further, we'll discuss something about this wildlife sanctuary. So this sanctuary is actually a protected area with sufficient ecological, faunal, floral and geomorphological, natural and zoological value. Also, it was established to protect, propagate and promote species and their environment. People who live inside the sanctuary may be granted certain rights. So there may be peoples who will be living around this wildlife sanctuary. So they will be actually granted several permissions like collecting of woods from the grounds. So using this forest area for grazing of their cattle. So they may be provided with sufficient granted rights. So these rights were actually, they were given by the collector. So the collector may, in agreement with the chief wildlife warden, authorize this continuation of any right of any person in over any land within the bounds of the sanctuary during the settlement of claims before finally notifying this sanctuary. So he is responsible for giving rights to these peoples for the grazing or collecting woods or any other rights which can happen in these wildlife sanctuaries. So another thing is that why these peoples they were actually poisoning tigers is that the government must provide compensation at quick time when a cattle is being hunted by tigers. So there may be a delay in this process, like providing compensation for the cattle which was killed by these tigers. So because of this too, the farmers or the owners of cattle, they will get frustrated and they were indulging in this kind of illegal activities like poisoning of tigers. So further, India's wildlife sanctuaries are designated as International Union IUCN, International Union Conservation of Nature, as a category 4 protected area. So there are 6 category protected areas which was designated by IUCN, and India's wildlife sanctuaries are category 4A. Important prelims questions. So the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 allowed the state government to declare a specific region as wildlife sanctuaries if they were deemed to be sufficient ecological, geomorphological and natural value. Another important question, who designates this wildlife sanctuary, whether it is state government or a central government? The answer is state governments. The state government will actually declare a specific region as a wildlife sanctuary. Further, as of August 2021, the country has 566 wildlife sanctuaries, accounting for 3.72% of country's total land area. The Vedantangal Bird Sanctuary, which is present in Tamil Nadu, is the world's oldest bird sanctuary. So it was founded in 1796. The oldest bird sanctuary is located in Tamil Nadu, India, and it was founded in 1796. So that's all for today's LU. In this LU, we have seen about the Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary and the Umred Pauni Karhandla Wildlife Sanctuary, why it is in news, and the wildlife sanctuary we have seen what are the animals which is present in this wildlife sanctuary, and we have also seen the conflict about between the man and animals in this LU. That's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you.